Oh man, the Niners beat the Raiders yesterday in what was a very wild game, but the win was very important because the Niners entered the last week of the season with a chance at the number one seed. How beautiful is it? New Sprint Right After podcast starts right now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go, Niners.
Let's go, Niners. Sprint Right Option podcast. Oh man, it's a new Sprint Right Option podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by the incomparable Jason Aponte. Jason, I predicted a 31-0 final score. I was only 6 points off of the Niners, so we're almost there. It counts, right?
Yeah, I mean, wins are wins. You know, a lot of people are upset, like, oh, well, you should be predicting. We predicted a win, and they got it, so stop it. Everybody just needs a reason to complain.
What's our record now? 12-4, picking the 49ers this season, so we're doing pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good. We've proved it's been a pretty good strategy to just pick the 49ers every single time. 49ers podcast, obviously, we're picking the Niners to win these games. But it was an interesting game, and the Jarrett Stidham prophecy I had a little bit on Friday came to fruition. It didn't seem the Niners defense really knew what to do with him, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't know. What was your thought? Because I thought that was a very entertaining, fun football game to watch.
It was a very fun game, but I think the way that you walk away from this game is more indicative of your own personality. Meaning, if you're a naturally pessimistic person or someone who wants to focus on negatives as opposed to thinking what I think, that this was a more impressive win because it kind of checked all of the boxes that everyone wanted to see before you get into the playoff type game. Can the offense carry the defense as opposed to the defense carrying the offense? Can Brock Purdy, when he's asked to lead the team down 10 points, which this is the second win during the Kyle Shanahan era where he's been down heading into the fourth quarter that he was able to win. The way that you feel about this game is probably more indicative of your own personality and how you view life things and how you view things overall. So for me, you could look at this and get down and say, oh my God, they put up all these points. And I have defensive stats that I want to talk about. And we have a lot to talk about when it comes to that, because obviously that's the story.
Mm-hmm.
But you can look at this and say, well, shit, the defense didn't come through. The offense picked them up. Every game isn't going to be the defense holding it down every single game. There are going to be games like this where the offense has to do it. Good teams find ways to win games. Bad teams find ways to make excuses for losses.
Yeah, and I mean, we could easily look at it and talk about how poor the defense was, and we'll talk about it. But on the other side of the coin is they won a game where the defense failed. And that's something that I'm going to word this very gently, Jason, with previous quarterbacks, we weren't sure how well that would happen. But it happened yesterday, and it wasn't Brock Purdy's. It's funny because it was statistically Brock Purdy's best game, 284 yards, but it wasn't his best game. He had some of that adversity. The way he bounced back after that interception in the fourth quarter, something we'll talk about here in a second. Just kind of overarching thoughts on the games before we get into the positional stuff. I thought it was a good win. It was one of those things too, when they fell behind 10, it was a thought of, yeah, man, it's a bummer that this is how they lose out on the number one seed, if that's even a real possibility at this point. And it makes it a little harder for the number two seed. But hey, this is a game that they were going to have at some point. Let's get it out of the way now. If they lose this game, they lose it. It's a bummer that they won't get any better seeding out of it, but they ended up winning. And I think that should be the big takeaway for everybody, because realistically, how do I word it? It wasn't that important of a game because this is a team that's already going to the playoffs, so they know that they're going to have a home game in the first round, but it's a very good win to have.
Honestly, when they went down 10, I thought they were going to still win that game.
Oh, yeah, I was very confident too. Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah, call me crazy. Usually when you're down 10, with this team with other quarterbacks, like you said, I probably would have said, yeah, this is it. But no, I honestly thought that the 49ers had moved the ball. There were penalties on the drive that were, near the end zone that kind of negated first downs. And, obviously when you come out in the second half and you have the first drive just be a 3 and out, that's
Mhm.
something that you're like, shit, like that was the whole idea, was to reset and have those adjustments. But I never felt like that game was over when it was 10 points down. And that's a different feeling than I've had in past
Mhm.
years.
Yeah, and yeah, sorry, I should have phrased that better because I thought the Niners were ever out of it. But when they're down 10, thoughts maybe come in, say, hey, if they lose this game, they lose this game. But let's start with the quarterback. Let's get to Brock Purdy. Once again, an interesting game from him. I thought he was good. He had some no throws, especially the interception. Didn't I saw people complaining about arm strength on that one. I think that was more so he just didn't get enough on it. I think we've seen him make farther throws than what he made on that one.
He didn't see
But
the corner either. He didn't see him.
yeah, so there's small things like that. 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, 22 for 35. He had 38 yards in the first 2 quarters of this game, but on the flip side of it, he had both of his 2 touchdowns in the first 2 quarters of the game. But then he exploded in the second half, 15 for 25 for 246 in the interception. Where I come in and say, yes, this is a really good game for Brock Purdy, is he had, and yes, Christian McCaffrey helps with a very big play on the first run. Back-to-back drives, you need to go get points to win this game, put this game away. And back-to-back drives, he put the 49ers in a position to score a touchdown and hit a game-winning 43-yard field goal. Unfortunately, Robbie Gould didn't hold up his end of the bargain. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit later. But from what we saw, Brock Purdy, 7 for 16, 161 after the INT, 6 for 10, 113 in his last 2 drives. He looked the part once again. He looked the part, and that's all that matters in my eyes with Brock Purdy, is him looking the part.
Yeah. Again, poised, never looks like it's too big for him. I mean, all the things that we continue to talk about, with Brock Purdy, and he showed it again. I do think that this was a game for the people who were hesitant to crown him based on, you needed a game like this. The NFL is not blowouts. That's
Mhm.
typically not how things go. Games are tightly contested, and the Raiders had a great plan. You need to credit the Raiders for what they were able to do. But for Brock Purdy to be able to lift this team when the defense wasn't, you thought you could set your watch to the defense. Well, guess again, the defense was hungover. So now you've got to go out there and score points, and you have to score points in the second half, and that's exactly what they did, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, he led 2 game-winning drives essentially down the field. The game would have been over. It would have never been overtime. So and then we know how it ended in overtime. But yeah, I mean, you kind of wanted to see this because this had the feel of a playoff game, even if it is against a lesser opponent. That's how he's going to have to win these playoff games, is last drive, get him down into field goal range. Can you get it done? Can you bounce back after you throw a pick? All of those things you saw. And I think this was a good reminder to everybody that he is a 7th-round rookie. This is his 4th start. I understand he doesn't look like he's, a fourth, in his 4th start, but he's still a rookie. He's still learning. And that's the thing that I think was the best thing, is that it reminds everybody that while we're all excited, while we're all impressed, you need to remember he's a rookie. And things like this can happen. Games like this can happen. Moments like this can happen at times. But for him to be able to find a way to get it done speaks highly to where he's at. He is a rookie still. I don't want to hear about this whole crown him this isn't 4th start. Still a rookie. And he did that. That's what's most impressive. But I think everybody needed that reminder, because we got so wrapped up in, wow, he doesn't look like a rookie, that he's still a rookie. He's still a rookie. And that's what you get sometimes. It's still fine to be learning on the job, as Purdy is right now in the NFL.
I honestly think his most impressive stretch of the season might have been the final 4 drives. Just because in a situation like they were in, the interception happens. The Niners are down 3 against the Raiders team that they should be blowing out at this point. And he leads essentially 4 consecutive scoring drives. There you go, field goal, touchdown, missed field goal. And that's where I'm getting the essentially 4 scoring drives, because he did enough to get them in that spot. A lot of rookie quarterbacks, I mean, in that situation, after that interception he threw, I'm not going to say a lot of rookie quarterbacks fold in that situation, but to see how Purdy bounced back, a 7-play, 59-yard field goal drive after the interception to give the Niners a lead, things like that, the poise he has, and I really want to stress, I can't say it any other way. It just, he has the look. He feels like he's a guy, Jason. And I think yesterday proved it more and more to me just for how he handled everything after the interception. It's his fifth straight game with multiple touchdowns. It's tied for second longest streak by a rookie. Justin Herbert holds that record. He had 7 consecutive games in his rookie season. I looked at, and I don't like to do the comparison thing. I looked at Jimmy Garoppolo. His longest streak of multiple touchdowns was 4. So it's something that we haven't seen in this Niners offense. It's hard not to get excited about it. So I guess this is the Jason reality checks Andrew of like, hey, maybe he's not the guy yet. It's too early. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. How are you feeling on Purdy through 5 games now?
We're still collecting information.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, guys. If I was imploring you to take your time and collect information on Trey Lance, why on earth would I jump to a conclusion after 4 starts on Brock Purdy? You can be impressed while understanding that every single person that has eyes on Brock Purdy right now should be doing the same thing that you would be doing if you were in your 4th start with Trey Lance. Collecting information, not jumping to conclusions. You can be impressed. There is no room for sweeping statements right now. And everyone's just talking about, well, I don't know how you can go back to Lance. It is 4 starts. 4. And if I told you that this is the way that you need to evaluate Trey Lance, slowly collect your information, continue to use your information as you gather it to form your opinion, why on earth would I change that for Brock Purdy, even though he is impressing the shit out of me and everyone else?
Yes. Perfectly said. I absolutely, because I just it's a conversation that seems to keep rearing its head on Twitter, but it's not a conversation for now. It still isn't. I've been trying to avoid the comparison stuff, as I just made the comparison of Garoppolo not having 5 consecutive multi-touchdown games. But yeah, there's going to be games like Purdy had yesterday. It's fortunate the Niners won, but again, he didn't have a bad game. It just wasn't as good as what we've seen previously. And I think that's what almost makes it more impressive that he was able to finish the way he did, despite it not being his best performance. Do you have any final thoughts on Purdy before we move to the running backs?
No, impressed. Did all the right things. I think this was good for everybody who needed to see this. Check the box. Can he, when his back's against the wall, can he lead touchdown drive after touchdown drive and put this team in a chance to win? I think all of those things happened. So, yeah, I mean, that's good.
So I was impressed with Purdy, and I think a lot of people should be as well. We'll see what it looks like, obviously, from here on out, kind of how it's been for the last month and a half now with Brock Purdy. Let's see what he looks like next week. Running backs, the Niners really dominated the game on the ground. Christian McCaffrey, 19 carries for 121 yards. Brandon Ayuk, 1 carry for 16 on an in around, which was exciting and fun to see. And then Jordan Mason, I wrote down 2 for 13. It might have been a little different than that, but he has the 14-yard touchdown run to give the Niners the lead before Jared Stidham walked down the field and tied the game. I thought the Niners run game was very good. I think it was a huge game for the offensive line. We'll get to the offensive line when we get to it. Jason, I saw you throw out the tweet yesterday about the price it costs for Christian McCaffrey. I don't think anybody should ever complain about that again, because he is the offense at this point.
I remember the day Christian McCaffrey was traded, and I was so excited on my live stream, and I had people, oh my God, you gave up too much. This is a goofy trade. It's a panic move. 49ers haven't lost since he's been the starting running back. The difference in this offense, sure, you can point to Brock Purdy and the way he's been playing, is Christian McCaffrey. And I understand you guys want to see Jordan Mason because he's really good, and you want to keep Christian McCaffrey healthy. We need to play, though. Give the ball to your best players. And yeah, he's really good. He's really good. And I think we should knock down the whole, a lot of people were clamoring for 3rd round picks because they can't wait to get their hands on another Trey Sermon or Jalen Hurd or I can't wait to see what that 3rd round pick is going to be, man, or that 4th round pick that might be Mitch Wisnowski or Joe Williams. Can't wait to see what those picks are going to be. Give me what I know. Christian McCaffrey's balling, man. That's it.
Yeah, last three of 4 games, he's had 100+ rushing yards, 4 consecutive games with a rushing touchdown. He's just been dominant, and that's not like It's kind of unfair, especially with the Niners offense, that we split this up in positions because so much of what McCaffrey did yesterday was also in the pass game as well, and we'll get to that on the receiving portion. So we'll leave that hanging a little bit. But yeah, when Christian McCaffrey is ripping 6.4 yards per carry, there's no reason to force feed anybody else. I know Mason got a couple carries. TDP had a carry, which was exciting. Juszczyk had a couple carries. But when Christian McCaffrey's running like he did yesterday, I think Jesse's just being mean that you could get Terry McLaurin in the third round, but I think Jesse's on your side with this, Jason. But when McCaffrey's running the ball like he was yesterday, there's no reason to go off of him. There is no reason whatsoever. He's the best running back on this team, and it's not even close.
I will say this. I think that Kyle got a little happy in the first half with just getting him the ball, and it didn't necessarily it didn't necessarily lead to like a higher percentage plays, if that makes sense. Like we talked all week about how bad the secondary was. And by the way, they got an interception, which they were bottom in the league in interception rate. That's what we get for bringing that up.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think Kyle gets a little too like, you know what, we can just get it to McCaffrey. And Brandon Ayuk's pretty good too. And I'm sure that's where we're going next. But yeah, look, when you need plays, especially that screen pass in which Daniel Brunskill stopped, dropped, and rolled and pulled his legs in right in time for Christian McCaffrey to run right by him. Yeah. Where he like sent he's banished that Raiders defender to the shadow realm. That's why you have him. That's why you need playmakers at all those spots. And, again, not to downplay Deebo Samuel, but man, Christian McCaffrey makes it a lot easier for Deebo Samuel to not play and for your offense to continue humming.
Yeah, I don't think if the Niners had a non-competitive game next week, there's no reason to play Deebo Samuel. But now that they have a chance for the 1 seed, maybe he gets a stretch, but we'll see. That's a conversation for Friday's episode. Jason, let's move to the wide receivers. Everybody needs to say it. It's time to admit it. Brandon Ayuk is the best wide receiver on the San Francisco 49ers. It's been time to say it. It's been weeks since people have been saying it. I don't think people realize it quite yet. 9 receptions, 101 yards, a touchdown on 12 targets. All of those numbers, the targets, the yards, and the receptions, season's highs for Brandon Ayuk. It's his first 100-yard game of the season. And Brock Purdy was force-feeding him on the final drive of the game. 5 of the 6 targets went to Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is very good. He should be a future Pro Bowler. I don't know if he's been a Pro Bowler. He wasn't a Pro Bowler this year. He needs to be one soon, and maybe an All-Pro one day. Brandon Ayuk is the best wide receiver on the Niners, and that's all I'm going to say because I've been saying it for weeks, and it continues to show he's the best receiver on this team.
Yeah, and it all started in training camp when he decided to fight the entire team. It just seemed like he was staking his claim and letting everybody know, hey, I'm here. And this is it. Like this is the energy that he's been exuding since training camp. If he could find a way to slow down the drops, he can do it even better, man. So I think it's pretty clear that Brandon Ayuk is the best on wide receiver on his team. Shout out to Juwan Jennings, 2 catches, 23 yards per. I think it was 2 for 46, 23 yards per. And Ray McLeod, man, just give him one touch and it's either 76 to the house or 41, something like that. So yeah, overall good game from the wide receivers. And Danny Gray ran the ball. Danny Gray, look at him.
Danny Gray had a run. Yes, we saw him.
It was 9 yards. Cool. It could have been a little bit more. But yeah, you have to be excited with Brandon Ayuk, man. He's 43 away, I believe, from 1,000 yards. And this was the season we thought he would have last year. It feels like we say this every single week, but yeah, he's incredible, man. And a lot of the things that he does in terms of running those slants over the middle of the field, it opens things up for them to be able to dump the ball off to McCaffrey. So his presence is felt no matter what. And as soon as Deebo Samuel comes back, it's only just going to add another dimension and just get him more open. I mean, the guy's always open and can get himself open all the time. So, yeah.
You mentioned the drops. George Kittle, 4 receptions, 23 and a touchdown. Should have had a second touchdown. Ball got through 2 Raiders defenders, got Kittle on the hands. He dropped it. I think he had another drop outside of that. But, hey, another touchdown for Kittle. Him and Ayuk leading the team in touchdown receptions. And then we mentioned Christian McCaffrey. He had 6 receptions, 72 on 9 targets. He passed Roger Craig. Hey, that's another familiar name. Not a Hall of Famer. Should be a Hall of Famer. Why isn't he a Hall of Famer? I don't know, Jason. Most receptions by a running back in his first 6 years. He's at 439. I think 435 was the number he passed Roger Craig on. Yeah, I just thought it was a very solid game by the receivers. They're only going to get better. They're only going to get better when Deebo Samuel returns. But I'm just so excited to see Brandon Ayuk get that wide receiver one treatment because it really felt like on that final drive, the 5 of 6 targets, he was just force feeding him the ball because he knew he was the best guy, the most consistent guy, the guy who's going to be wide open. And I'm just excited because seeing what Brandon Ayuk has become this season, it has been, it's personally one of my favorite things this season, just seeing him develop the way he has. So that's exciting for me personally. The most right thing I've been about this season. So A+ for me saying it, I guess. I don't know. Congrats, clap hands. I don't know. You want to go offensive line now? Mike McGlinchey's good. It's time. Like, it's time to say it, guys. It's okay to say it. He only allowed 2 pressures on 38 pass blocking plays. Max Crosby had 5 pressures yesterday as a whole. No sacks allowed, and they ran the hell out of the ball. 6.3 yards per carry. The offensive line is good, and that's been the case. It's just good to see Mike McGlinchey finally get the recognition he deserves.
I don't know if I'm really ready to just, argue with people about their opinion about Mike McGlinchey because he's so polarizing. I do want to break it down to just this simple thing. If Mike McGlinchey plays poorly, say he played poorly. But if Mike McGlinchey holds Max Crosby and does well and plays well for a game, it's okay to say that he played well. And I think that's always going to be what it should be for every single player. I'm not here to change your overarching thoughts on Mike McGlinchey, but he had a very good game this week. And his teammates have his back. Eric Armstead talked about he made himself money this week. A lot of people were asking if Max Crosby even played in this game. I think I saw him on like maybe 1 or 2 pressures. So, yeah, I mean, all you have to do is when he plays well, say he played well. If you feel like he didn't play well, then you can just say, hey, he didn't play well. But it doesn't have to change your overarching opinion because he's just such a polarizing figure. I feel like McGlinchey and Jimmy elicit the same sort of, like, you either have to be on either side of it without being able to just say, hey, I'm taking a game by game with them and I'm going to evaluate in that way, like how it is. So, with McGlinchey, I think he played well. Fortunately, Aaron Banks went down in this one, MCL sprain. It looks like it sounded like what Kyle said today was he'll definitely miss this week, which is smart. And then they'll reevaluate him next week. I mean, he was riding a stationary bike. He walked off the field and then walked off the field at the end of the game. Now, again, adrenaline could mean that, that is helping him. So we don't know, but it seems like hopefully he averted, a serious injury. So, but shout out to Daniel Brunskill, man. I mean, him coming in and being able to be in that spot that he plays the least. He plays every single position on the offensive line, and he stays and he's able to jump in there and just like not miss a beat, man. Daniel Brunskill is invaluable depth for this entire line at this point.
Yeah, Daniel Brunskill, I was going to mention him. You got him before me here. The utility knife for the Niners offensive line. He's been doing a lot of that rotation with Spencer Burford, but he stepped in at left guard for Aaron Banks. 0 pressures on 30 pass blocking opportunities by him. And then the big play of the game for him was the McCaffrey screen you mentioned earlier, where he gets plenty of that Raiders defender to free up the space for Christian McCaffrey, to allow McCaffrey to run through a Raiders defender to get what is a 38-yard catch and run. So just a very good game by Daniel Brunskill. He's such an important player to this offensive line. Just for how valuable he's been and how much they've been able to move him around. When a guy like Aaron Banks goes down, to be able to trust somebody like Daniel Brunskill just to step in and give you that production is so nice. And this offensive line is really clicking at this time. And it's starting to feel like the important pieces of this team are really starting to gear up to the playoffs. So we'll see what it looks like in 2 weeks when the playoffs come. But just a very solid game. As I said, Brock Purdy's sacked 0 times. Good game by the offensive line. Jason, before we move to the defense, Sprint Red Option Podcast right here on Jason Aponte's YouTube channel. It's a great place to click subscribe if you have not already. Anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon now. You can download there if you haven't had a chance to. Sprint Red Option Podcast is a great podcast. It's Valentine's Day sneaking up a little bit. That's next month. It's a great gift to give to your significant other. The gift of Jason Aponte. Look at that haircut. Look at the trim beard. We love it. It's a great gift to give, so do that.
Ridiculous, man.
Defensive.
And I want to preface that and say that you understand that Andrew is joking. Please do not get your girlfriend to say, hey, listen, I subscribed you on your, for this. You're gonna get kicked out of the house.
I don't know. Maybe try it, see what happens.
Oh my God, man. Stop making stuff up. I never said that. But you know what? That's the type of game I wanted them to have so they could be battle tested. That's more what I meant. But stop making stuff up, man. Oh, God, go.
Defensive line, and I didn't think I would say this too often with this defensive line, Jason Aponte. 0 sacks. They didn't finish off a sack of Jared Stidham. What they did, however, is pressure him 26 total times. Nick Bosa makes the play of the game. He doesn't finish with the sack. He's probably not going to get Strahan's record. He needs 2 sacks to get to Alden Smith's record. But he makes the play of the game running through Colton Miller, forcing the interception at the end of the game. And that's why he's Defensive Player of the Year. He doesn't have his best game. Yeah, 10 pressures. That's phenomenal. I shouldn't say that, not his best game. But he's still able to find ways to impact the game without getting to the quarterback.
10 pressures. I mean, he's the only player in the NFL with more than 10 pressures in 2 games. I mean, he had 14 in one game and 10 in the other. So, yeah, his impact is always felt, right? And, a lot of the things that we are going to talk about in terms of concern for this team are a little bit more tied to the pass rush than people want to give credit to, right? And I think you guys know where we're going with this. So, but yeah, Nick Bosa basically won the game, closed it out. That's how you close out games with pass rush. He literally walked that Raiders lineman right into Stidham to make him pop that thing up, and he raised his arms because he knew Gibson was going to come down with this. So that's a pretty cool scene. Eric Armstead.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Armstead.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Armstead
Mm-hmm.
got a ticket from a Raiders fan after the game because he obliterated 2 grown men and stopped a goal line stand.
Yep.
I want to talk about him. Kerry Hyder had back-to-back plays that were a quarterback hit that resulted in an incompletion and then batted that ball up for Drake Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So again, sacks are cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can disrupt without having sacks. 10
Yep.
pressures, all of those things. Kerry Hyder had a great game. Eric Armstead, people are going to point to it and say, well, he had like 1 or 2 tackles. Watch the games. Please watch the games. Please.
Yeah, the both plays where he got the run stop, because obviously the well-known one was right 4th down at the goal line with the Niners trailing or up by 4. That's a huge play. But then the same thing happened. It was just a random, run play by the Raiders. Armstead busts a double team and is able to get a tackle for loss. He's so phenomenal. And I tweeted out there that he's the best Niners defensive tackle since Brian
Kinlaw
Young
played. Kinlaw had 22 snaps, and he was credited with a hurry. So that's 6 more than last week.
I threw out the thought that Armstead's the best defensive tackle the Niners have had since Bryant Young. He's having a phenomenal season. And this defensive line, Jason, as we said, didn't create a sack, but they forced both interceptions. The Kerry Hyder to Drake Jackson play, the defensive line is forcing things to happen. And there are concerns with the other parts of the defense that we're going to talk about here. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation about the defensive line, though. I saw a thing that somebody said that they're all, they all have the expectation of having the quality of a starter. And that's all you see with this team. It's just everywhere. It seems we're talking, because we're talking about Bosa every week, but one week it's Ebukam, 1 week it's Jordan Willis, 1 week it's Omenihu, 1 week it's this guy, and it changes. It's because this line is so deep and it's so dominating. The Raiders, the offensive line, very good, right? They've allowed, I think, the 10th fewest sacks in the league. They don't give up a ton of sacks. But the Niners defensive line, the impact was there. If you watch the game, you know exactly how dominant this defensive line is without the sack numbers. It was just all there.
Yeah, I mean, for stretches, you could say, man, where's the pass rush? And then at the end of that game, you could see D'Amico Ryans dialing up a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Fred Warner got a pressure as well, too. So, he did make adjustments down the stretch. It's just a lot of the success on the back end is tied to getting to the quarterback. And, we'll save that conversation for a little bit. We'll move on to linebackers.
Yeah, so let's move on to linebackers, and shall we? Fred Warner, 12 tackles. He had 3 run stops. Dre Greenlaw, 8 tackles. He left the game with a back injury. And then Al-Shaair had 7 tackles. What were your thoughts on the linebackers? Nothing really stood out other than the high tackle amount, but that's kind of what we're used to with the Niners linebackers.
Greenlaw's going to be fine. He's not going to miss any time, Kyle Shanahan says, so don't worry about that. Fred Warner particularly didn't have himself a good game. That face mask was egregious, was unnecessary. That play was dead to rights. And then the pass interference to Waller in the end zone, not Fred's best game. Just not Fred's best game at all. Oren Burks came in and he, filled in for a little bit. But, when Greenlaw goes down and you're in nickel all the time and you have Ward out there, then it's just going to be two linebackers regardless. So the good news is Greenlaw is going to be fine. Nothing's wrong with him. So that's good. It felt like that injury was fine. Like he got up and he ran and he dropped, he ran off the field and then he was running back and forth. Felt like they could have brought him back in whenever they felt like it. Kyle was kind of playing it safe and I like that. But yeah, Fred didn't have so much of a big game, man. It was kind of tough to watch this week.
Yeah, a high tackle count, but yeah, definitely two big plays. The pass interference was pretty blatant, and he seemed to think he didn't penalize or didn't give it the pass interference, but then again, every defensive back and every player in coverage thinks that's the case. Jason, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Are we concerned about the secondary?
We've been.
Yeah.
We've been. And here's the thing. Even saying anything about people in the secondary, and I think you know who I'm talking about, is you're a hater. You're a hater. Oh my God, guys can't grow. I want to be wrong on things like this. Mm-hmm. If I'm concerned that there's going to be coverage busts, if I'm concerned that there's going to be big plays, I would love to shut the hell up because contrary to what you guys believe, I want this team to succeed. Not only because I'm a fan, but my job is tied to covering this team, and I would like to see them play as many games as possible.
Yes.
So, it's time to have the conversation. Talanoa Hufanga. It's too much now. It's too much now. And this is exactly what we talked about all offseason when everyone gave us shit about, man, you're a hater. I know. Stop hating. It's just because you like Tart. Mm-hmm. Tart didn't turn the ball over, but Tart didn't get beat. Tart never got beat. Now, can you give off and trade off? Okay. But the interceptions are drying up. The forced fumbles are drying up now. Those are always going to be things that are going to regress to the mean. I could deal with the coverage busts early in the year because you're learning and you're 22 and you're learning. And you know what? You clean it up by the end of the year. What frightens me the most right now is that it's happening later in the year. And not every time that Hufanga bites on something does it result in a big play. But what happens is offensive coordinators watch the film, and they see you jumping an over route when you should be in your spot and you could hit a play. Even though it doesn't get hit, you're still jumping out of your place. It's happening too frequently. Last week, when I talked about this, if he gives up one touchdown and the 49ers give up 14 points, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. The 49ers gave up a ton of points. And it's not just him. We're going to move off of him. Yes. Because I feel like that's something that we've been talking about. I just want people to realize that when we were saying this, we had been saying it all year. Go back to our secondary preview. Literally what we said. The guy's got to play fast, instinctually, but he also has to be disciplined. He's playing with bad eyes right now. He's getting beat off of those things. And offensive coordinators are attacking him. Credit the Raiders. The Raiders had a clear plan. They were going to attack Diamador Lenore, Tashawn Gibson, and Talanoa Hufanga. And they did. Hufanga gave up 2 catches. 1 was a touchdown, perfect passer rating. Demo gave up 5 catches on 7 targets. He missed a tackle. He had a penalty. He had a rough game. Gibson had the interception, 2 catches, was dinged for a long pass, 2 as well. Mooney Ward was locking down Davante Adams, but he did give up the touchdown to Davante Adams. The secondary is a concern. So here's the thing. If you are an offensive coordinator right now, okay, you have a large sample size of guys that want to throw the ball in front of defenders and hope they can shake somebody and get yak. Well, you know what? That doesn't work. This defense is too fast. Throw it in front of a bunch of guys. Greenlaw's on your head. Hufanga's on you, and they're tackling you. But now, if you can hit them over the top now, that's where the 49ers are vulnerable right now. Now, look, it's not panic time. It's not. I literally sent out a tweet today that should calm some fears. The 2000 Baltimore Ravens gave up 500 yards to the New York Football Jets. and 484 yards to another team. The 85 Bears gave up 444 yards in a game. The 2013 Seattle Seahawks gave up 400-something yards to the Houston goddamn Texans. My point is, games like this happen. Mm-hmm. What should happen now is you needed this game to wake everybody up. And now it's on film. How do you fix it? I trust that D'Amico will get it fixed. And when you listen to Nick Bosa say, we have tons of things to clean up, we kind of needed this wake-up call. We underestimated Jarrett Stidham. Those were his words. It's still there to be fixed. I am not panicked, but this concern that we had all offseason is now popping up, and now it's a pattern these last few weeks. And you can bet, like we said last week, if Andrew notices it and Jason notices it and all of you guys that are watching notices it, every offensive coordinator notices it. So it's got to get cleaned up. Now, some of that gets cleaned up with the pass rush.
Yeah.
The pass rush gets there and they're hitting, cool. Yeah. You know? But this game should be a big wake-up call for them. Now it needs to be prioritized. You've got to figure out a way to here's the thing. You cannot curb Hufanga's aggressiveness and how fast he plays for the sake of him just playing safe, because then he's going to start playing hesitant. You have to find a way to cultivate all of the things that he can do well while adding discipline to it. And that's the hard part of being a defensive coordinator. That's why D'Amico is so good. That's why being an NFL coach is so hard. Can it get fixed? Yes.
Yes.
But it needs to get fixed now because you are one game away from starting the playoffs.
Yeah, Hufanga and the interceptions, they're fantastic. They're fun. And Gammon, this is a fantastic question. We'll get to it right after this because this is the other side of it. But he was given credit for the Darren Waller touchdown. I think he should have been given credit for the Devontae Adams one as well, because Adams leaked through his area. PFF gave it to Fred Warner, which Rich Madrid thought was a little ridiculous. So I'm going to run with what Rich Madrid thinks on that, because he watched that stuff, looks for it. The Diamador Lenore seems to be – he's been good, but he's definitely the guy to target in this secondary. And it's really becoming a concern. How much of it was because he's facing Adams? I think the concern to me was he doesn't show much ball skills. He got pretty heavily – I don't want to say mossed, but he got beat on that deep shot. It's just you need more consistency out of the secondary from not the guy's name Ward. The two combined 8 receptions allowed on 12 targets, which is just a high amount, right? But when only 49 yards are coming on those plays, you're keeping it in front of you. Nothing big is happening. It seems the big plays are happening elsewhere. Hufanga, as I said, if the interceptions start coming, it's not as big of a complaint. But this was where I don't want to bring it back to him because we get docked for liking him so much. But this is where the quote-unquote boringness of Tart came into play. Yeah, he wasn't forcing turnovers, but big plays never happened. If they did, it was rare. And you need more of that. Yes, the big plays are exciting, but in 3 weeks by Talanoa Hufanga, that's a concerning trend because, as Jason said, if this is reversed, where he starts the season giving 4 touchdowns up in 3 games, and now we're talking about, oh, look at the interceptions, they're finally coming. It's a totally different feel. But now the issue is it's the reverse, and this is when he feels like he needs to be improving, not stepping back again. Right. So that's the concern here. Now, this is the question that I love, Gammon, because I felt weird in the winners and losers. Jason, I don't know if you know, we write for NinersNation.com. But in winners and losers, I put the pass defense as a loser. And then I had to say, well, it wasn't all that bad because of what Charvarius Ward and Jimmy Ward did. But then also the turnovers. But you have to remember, too, at least specifically for looking in the realm of yesterday, the secondary didn't force the turnovers. It was the defensive line in both of the cases, right? Does it offset the blown coverages? It depends. Yesterday, yes, because the Niners won, but there's going to be a game where the Niners might force 2 turnovers in the playoffs and the other team gets, 3, 4, 5 blown coverages and they still win the game. That's the concern to me. That's the biggest concern for this secondary right now, because a month ago, 2 months ago, I felt like we wouldn't have had this concern with the secondary, but now it's dangerously close to the playoffs where it is a concern. I'm not saying it's not fixable at this point, because it is. I trust in D'Amico Ryans more than any coach not named Kyle Shanahan on this team. But it's very concerning that it's happening this close to the playoffs when it felt like this defense was riding very smoothly for the past 2 months.
Right, and this is the thing, Gammon. If the 49ers give up 14 points and one of them is on a coverage bus, but they score 27, 30 points, then it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. The point is that it's a little bit nervous if there's a game where it does cost you, right? And I'm not trying to put that out there or anything like that. I'm just saying all of this needs context. That's why it's a concern, but it's not a panic, right? I think that we can all agree the 49ers defense underestimated Jarrett Stidham, and you can also give credit to the Raiders because they had a plan to attack the aggressiveness of Hufanga. They knew that if they got the matchup they liked on Lenoir to take that shot, they knew that if they got a guy over on, Mooney was clamps. Clamps. Like he was himself. Mooney Ward is clamps. So Lenoir and Ryans and all of these guys, they're going to figure this out. Here's why. I am not trying to dump on this young man, but Ambry Thomas is worse. So I don't want to see Ambry Thomas on this field. Okay? D'Amico Ryans schemed around that, and they were fine last year. They were fine last year in the playoffs, right? They've got to tighten it up. This is a learning experience. I'm glad this happened now. Glad that it didn't happen in the playoffs. But if anybody is going to replace Lenoir, and I don't want Lenoir to be replaced, I want to go on record. It's going to be Jackrabbit Jenkins. It's going to be Jenkins. I do not want to see Ambry Thomas on the field. I do not.
I saw people say, I saw people on the timeline saying, once again, not trying to pile on Ambry Thomas. How can it be worse than Diamador Lenoir? It can't be. It can be. We've seen it before. So yeah, it's not. This isn't a threat. Like I'm not worried to bench him yet. It's not that big of a concern because like some of it yesterday is like Devontae Adams is just going to get hits, right? Some of it's chalked down to that. It's just. This is a team with not a ton of concerns, and when there's a glaring concern like this, when you have Super Bowl aspirations, it's going to be a big conversation point. Yes, they won this game, but what if there's a game where the offense doesn't score 37 and the secondary plays like they did yesterday in, let's say, 2-3 weeks when these games are actually really, really important? That is the concern. So that's where we'll leave it with the secondary. Jason, that's all I got on it. Do you have any last thoughts on the secondary?
No. I think, again, pass rush can alleviate all those things. I think D'Amico Ryans knows it's an issue. You know, you've heard Hufanga say, I've got to stop taking the cheese. I need to be lactose intolerant, whatever the hell that means. I mean, I know what it means, but it's just like he could have used a better analogy. Yes. All of these things are being thought about. Again, work through it. I do believe in Ryans. I believe that they've had worse situations. Maybe not in the safety position, because when it was Ward and Tart last year, you were fine. You know, you knew that there was not going to be anything really overheads, anything like that. But you have to be able to teach this young man without curbing the things that make him special and make him a fun player and make him very impactful. So that's the hard part. That's the part that I don't envy with D'Amico Ryans. And I don't imply to know all the answers and everything. So that's what he's got to work through. And Gammon, thank you for the donation. I'm chilling. It's like 60 degrees over here on the East Coast. I don't know. It's probably a little bit more over there with Andrew.
It's pouring right now in Sacramento. It's been pretty stormy here the past couple of days. There's a big power outage on Saturday. That wasn't ideal. Trees are falling. It's not great. Jason, why didn't Ward follow Adams? Thank you, Blink.
Just not part of their plan. I mean, I think that the way that they schemed everything up, he really hasn't really been following guys too much. Like, it's just not something that he does. Like, and the way that they build their defense, the way that they believe that they can run it, they don't have that. I think that kind of either one tips your hand, right? Because Devontae Adams, think about this. Devontae Adams had one long catch and one on a coverage bust. Other than that, did he really go off? I mean, I'm not trying to say, you take away the two biggest plays. One was a scramble drill. The other, I think everybody in this chat, I mean, I'm not going to bring it up because I thought it was a catch because there wasn't enough to overturn it. That's the way you guys should be looking at catches. Not whether you think he caught it or not. Can they overturn this? And as soon as I saw it, I was like, they're not going to overturn this. There's not enough there. So, I mean, when you really think about it, one was a 60-yard play. The other was that touchdown over Ward, and it was like, he gave up 18 yards, I believe, to Adams, and 9 of them were on that play. And it was like an insane catch So when you look at the stats, you look at it and you say, damn, Devontae Adams went off. Did he? I mean,
Yeah.
he did statistic wise, but it was like 2 plays. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's not as easy as all like, move these guys over and just have them follow. I just don't think that's something the 49ers are willing to do.
Greatness, thank you for the donation. I think what we saw was when we don't have a pass rush, we're exposed in the secondary thoughts.
Fair. And to be fair, greatness, many teams on the back end, if they don't have pass rush, it's hard for these guys to cover. It's hard for
very
guys
hard.
to cover. It's hard for guys to cover elite guys like over and over, right? Like we watched last year, Ambry Thomas started his first game, and he had to go up against the Cincinnati Bengals, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I don't know how much more of a test you could get from a receiving corps, but if you're not getting to the quarterback, and these guys got to cover, I don't care who you are, you got to cover 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And
yeah,
again,
yeah, I was going to say, you could have the best secondary in the world, but 5 seconds is a long time. Yeah. If any quarterback in the league, especially the best ones, Mahomes, Allen, all those guys, it's if they have that much time, they're probably going to torch you. It's just the better secondaries in the league, they're going to be better at holding for longer times. But it's not a Niners specific thing where if the pass rush isn't getting there, the secondary tends to create, the longer it goes, the easier it is to beat secondaries.
I want you to read this one, and I want you to tell me the reference.
Huff is down with OOP. Yeah, I don't know, man. Listen,
oh my God.
I thought Chicken Noodle Soup was a K-pop song for about
God.
What's that reference?
Pterodome, tell him it's Naughty by Nature, OPP. Yeah, you know me. My goodness gracious. This is what I gotta do with Pterodome. This is what I gotta do with.
I'm sorry. This is why we need the rap podcast.
This is what I gotta do with, man.
I don't know who got hurt, Chris Hansen. I like the name, but yeah, I don't know if you're watching.
Just killing me.
I don't know if you're watching the Bills game, but there's an ambulance on the field right now.
Yeah, apparently a Bills player fainted.
Okay. So Jason, I guess that takes us to this point. It is 3 stars. I think it's everybody's favorite portion.
Sweeping the nation.
I have like 16 like honorable mentions. I want to shout out Daniel Brunskill for sure. Yeah. But I think my 3rd star, I'm gonna go a tie for my 3rd star. Mike McGlinchey and Nick Bosa. Just Mike McGlinchey doing so well against Max Crosby. He keeps building and building and building and building and building, and he's getting better and better. Time to stop saying he's bad, people. It's okay to admit it. It's A-okay. And then Nick Bosa, like no sacks. It's kind of a bummer, but he really showed how he can dominate games without really getting to the quarterback, the play at the end. So I'm going to go a half and half. I know you don't like it when I do it, but 2-3 stars for me. Mike McGlinchey and Nick Bosa. I wanted to make sure they both got their credit.
3rd star is Brock Purdy. Hey, look at you, young man. They didn't believe in us. They didn't think you could get it done when there's a game that you have to play from behind. Yeah, good. Great job, buddy. That's how playoff games are going to be won. You're going to have to take them down the field 2 times. The Jordan Mason touchdown and then the Robbie Gould field goal attempt, which, I love that. The kickers don't matter. The kickers don't matter. Agenda is just booming. It's booming right now, and it's just like all over the place right now. But yeah, Brock Purdy, that's what a playoff game is going to be like. Albeit against a lesser opponent, but you're going to have to go down and score and win at the end of games and lead drives at the end of 4th quarters. So good on you. And I mean, just you look the part right away. So yeah, 3rd star Brock Purdy.
Yeah, he would have been one of my honorable mentions. My number 2 star is going to be Christian McCaffrey. He really was the offense in the first half, especially with Brock Purdy throwing for 32 yards. He had the 37-yard run that set up the first touchdown. And then the big play at the end of the game, the 38-yard catch and run where he gets the Brunskill block. Christian McCaffrey's electric. It was worth the picks. Honestly, personally, I would have thrown more picks in just so people can be mad more, because it would still be worth it, because Christian McCaffrey has really changed this offense. I don't think it's coincidence that they're 9-0 since he's fully stepped into this offense. I don't think it's coincidence. So Christian McCaffrey is my number 2.
Yeah, mine is going to be Brandon Ayuk. I mean, all the things that we were saying, just keep hooping. I mean, if you can clean up the 1 or 2 drops, you can even have bigger days. But that 3rd and 4 play action where the ball popped up in the air, that's that dog. You went up and got it. And, again, this all started at training camp when he tried to fight Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Matt Mayoko, everybody on the field that day. It was insane, man. You could just tell that Brandon Ayuk was staking his claim. He looks like that guy every single day at training camp, was the best player day in, day out. Shout out to Brandon Ayuk. And Gammon Brown says, interesting twist. Can we afford to extend Mike? I think so.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
so.
Yeah, absolutely can.
Yeah.
My number 1 star, I don't know if this will come as a surprise to people, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Ayuk is on fire. 9 receptions, 101 yards, a touchdown. Mentioned it all. He's very good. He's the best receiver on this team. Put some respect on his name when Deebo Samuel returns. Deebo's the best offensive weapon, and Brandon Ayuk's the best receiver, and that's A-OK.
Oh, my God. They're giving him CPR on the field, apparently.
Oh,
man.
Okay, number 1.
Christian McCaffrey. Christian McFuckdom picks. Am I right? I mean, ever since he's gotten there, the offense has gone to. They are, I believe, right now scoring 7th in the league in points per game. So yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey was worth all of that and more. He not only gives you a safe space to throw the ball, like check down, but he makes plays when he has it. So I'm sorry, I'm thrown off just by this injury, like right now. So I don't know what's going on, but I mean, Christian McCaffrey, worth every pick, and keep balling, young man. Even if you have a mild sprain, you don't got to play next week either, yo. I think we can take care of them.
Yeah, Jason, we're gonna get up out of here.
Let's do that.
Go focus on what's going on here. And
I gotta find out what's going on. Yeah, shout out to greatness, man. Yeah.
So anyways, we're going to cut this one short. We'll be back on Friday to preview week 18. The Niners play the Cardinals, and it's going to be a very important weekend for the 49ers because they have.
I'm picking the 49ers to win.
Yeah, I think we're picking the Niners to win. We can spoil that now. 31-0. That's my prediction.
31-0.
Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.